Okay, so we're just having our day after the race. As you can see, we're just taking it very easy by the pool. We haven't done much today. We've just walked down and got a coffee, got a little bit of lunch, and then we'll walk down to dinner this evening. Rich is just perched on the lounger here. It's a nice hotel pool, and you can see Mount A in the background there. We are directly under the flight pathway, so maybe a few planes. So Rich, how are you feeling today? What's your initial reaction post-race?
So I actually feel quite good. I'm actually very happy with how it all came in the end. Haven't really been that great with training up to the event, so actually I had no time expectations, but I'm very happy with how it went in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, so before we break down the individual disciplines, let's just do something quite basic. So like, give me like 2 high points of your race and 2 low points of your race.
So high points for me was the swim, because I hadn't really done a huge amount of swim training, and I'd picked up a wetsuit last minute, which is always a big no-no. I was able to swim very well, and I was overtaking a lot of people, which is always good. And when I got a flat on the bike, I'd normally go into a bit of a spin, but actually kept my head, able to get back on with it without losing too much focus on the end goal. And low points were actually getting the puncture and actually just the marathon, when I was basically having to walk for quite a lot of it.
So let's talk a bit about the swim now. Tell us a bit more about the swim, like both what you think, basically what you think went well about the swim. What did you enjoy about it?
So the swim is always probably going to be my favourite part as a swimmer when I was growing up, but this time actually it was very simple. It's very much like Ironman Hamburg, where it's literally a straight out turn and then straight back in. It's very good, and actually had 2 good prominent features where you can actually do your sighting from. Yeah, the water wasn't actually that horrendous that some people were saying about it was going to be rather horrible to swim in for some reason or another, but actually I found it really pleasant, and actually the whole vibe around the start was actually very nice. Some people argy-bargy, but actually on the whole everyone was very pleasant, and the volunteers were really helpful at swim exit as well.
So moving on to the bike, what went well on the bike?
So transition was actually, I felt quite good for me, and then actually, sorry, just wait for the plane to go over.
So moving on to the bike, what do you think actually went well for the bike?
So actually for me, my normal issue is transitions are normally quite bad, but this time actually I'd managed to keep sort of like a level head, which allowed me to actually be in control and I didn't go off like a bat out of hell on the bike initially, which is normally one of my main failings. Paced it. I set myself sort of like a limit on the flats of going not going over 150 BPM for my heart rate, but coming down from the turnaround point, it was going down. I was pushing quite hard because of the headwind, and I was allowed myself to go higher. Again, I kept myself in check, and I had this mental thing where I'd like every sort of 6 to 10 miles, I'd just sort of ask myself internally, how am I feeling? How's this going? Is this too hard? Is this sustainable? Have I taken on enough drink? Have I collected any water from the aid station to help with cooling? And actually I'd achieved all of that. granted, I was a bit upset about getting my puncture, but actually when I stopped, when it finally went down properly, I was able to keep my head and ask for help, because you can get tech support to come and help you do it, and then get back on with the bike.
Okay, and now moving on to the run. Anybody that saw the video that we put up yesterday with your split times obviously could see that you spent significantly longer out on the run than you did on the bike. So tell us a bit about what happened on the run.
So the marathon, I've been sort of nursing sort of like a niggle with my right knee, and because I was out on the bike a lot longer than I planned for, and the weather conditions weren't what I was expecting in terms of the wind, I'd figured I'd try and run, but actually that became very uncomfortable within the first 400 meters, so ended up trying to execute a run walk strategy, but in the end ended up walking, I would say probably about 35 kilometers or just over 20 miles of the run. Occasionally I would try and do like a run walk, like lamppost, like run 3 lampposts, walk 1. That actually became too much, and then I remembered I actually had some pain relief in my pocket, so I took those, and then the last, I'd say probably 1.5 miles, I was able to jog it in and build into a very steady run, which was all very good, and I was able to finish, I'd say, fairly strong.
So normally with a lot of videos they would then say, you know, what would you recommend for people who are going to do this race again, but obviously this was the last year of this race, so unless they bring it back in the future, there's no real point sort of saying, you know, what you'd recommend for people with this race. But based on what happened yesterday, as it's your 4th Ironman, is there anything that you learn from the race today that can be applicable to anybody who is racing any venue, or first race, then multiple races? Any general advice?
Yeah, always have a plan for every eventuality. If you get a puncture, it's fine. You've probably had a puncture before. There's no point in getting stressed, because if you get stressed over something, actually you're just gonna get in a flap and you end up losing your head and in this negative spiral, which isn't very productive for anyone's day. But I think on the whole, probably some key takeaways are, do try and pace evenly if you can, because if you pace it evenly you can generally go a bit quicker towards the end, and that goes for the swim, the bike and the run. In terms of travel, we were out, obviously as you know, we've been out here for nearly 2 weeks. This has probably been a bit too long. Could probably have got away with maybe 10 days in total instead of the complete 2 weeks that we're out here. But do some research around the event and make sure if it's a hot race, do some heat acclimation, which if you're coached, your coach will understand and can guide you towards. If it's a cold race, then be prepared to layer up for the bike and maybe the run. And then the swim, just get open water practice is probably the biggest thing. If you're new into the sport, get down to your local lake, try different wetsuits. Don't be like me, where I pick up a wetsuit 2.5 weeks before the event, having only swum in it once and being like, yeah, that works. I'm very fortunate as a swimmer. I can pick many different suits that will work for me in that sense. And for the bike, big thing is probably get a bike fit before you choose your expensive bike to go fast on. And then for the run, pick shoes that you can run in all day long, because you could be out there for a lot longer than you think, and the carbon shoes aren't necessarily designed to be on them for multiple hours, so more than 4 hours, for example.
Okay, so now the race is over. What's the next plan? How do you feel that, you've done this triathlon, you've done the training? How does that tie into your GT7 stuff? And yeah, what's the basic plan moving forward?
So to go into the GT7 side of things, I'm going to be going back into what they call the daily races, which are one a week, or races every sort of 20 minutes, half an hour every day from Monday 7:30, 8 o'clock GMT time. I'll do some of those, try and get my driver rating from an E class, like hopefully I can promote myself up through the ranks, and I will start working on things that can help newer drivers, maybe things, see if I can get myself into, we call them lobbies, where I can get some more experienced racers. I'll stream some races, and in amongst that I'll be doing comparisons between Gran Turismo 7 racing, the endurance side of things, and as I go from Arizona in towards Hamburg 2026, there will be comparisons being drawn and lessons learned across both, which can be implemented across both.